Okay, well, it's what, January 5th,
Yeah.
2014, and we're here in Justin with Lanny Parcells. Lanny is doing the restoration on the Travel Air 5000 for the Morningstar Partners. And we were just talking a little bit about the airplane that's going to be on display in downtown Fort Worth at the old Star Telegram building in a new museum to be called the Star Museum. So, Lanny, tell us what you've done on the airplane since you brought it up here.
Well, obviously the first thing we did was cleaned it up, and then we got all the pieces and the remnants that were left that Harry had gathered together and collected up, and basically just tried to fit it back together and understand how it was assembled. As it's a little bit different technology than what we use in modern times. The shape of the fuselage is all controlled by the wooden bulkheads and wooden stringers that are attached to the steel tubing.
This is all going to be fabric covered, right?
Yeah, it's plywood decked from this bulkhead forward.
Okay. To run the cockpit area?
Around the cockpit area, it's all 3/32 mahogany plywood, and then it's open bay fabric from there back, and then it's got a mahogany plywood paneling that makes the interior walls of the cabin itself.
Oh, really? So it's not fabric on the inside?
No, it's not fabric. It's all wood on the inside.
Nice.
Which it'll all be varnished out, and it'll look like your living room.
That'd be
with,
great.
with wicker seats.
With wicker seats.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be pretty striking on the inside.
So this would carry what? It would have one pilot, and I know some of the paperwork said 3 passengers, and then how much baggage and airmail could it probably carry?
I'm calculating probably around 200 pounds.
Okay. So
given what the max gross weight of the airplane is 2,700 pounds.
Okay. And so what do we know about service ceiling on the airplane and endurance, those kinds of things?
Well, it's published at a whopping like 17,000 feet is what the spec says on the airplane. But a normally aspirated 200 horsepower engine carrying that much weight, I bet it would struggle to get over 9,000 feet.
Okay. Well, it would get cold there too. So, but the pictures we've seen of people getting on the airplane summertime, they're wearing heavy coats. And hats and
I'm sure it wasn't keeping warm in the summertime wasn't a problem, because as a matter of fact, some of the pictures that we found, because it's got a very faceted looking windshield that sits on the top, and the pilot sticks up above the top of the cockpit behind this little faceted windshield, and then it's got a removable cover, a canopy, for lack of a better term, that goes behind it. Well, that cover comes off.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And in the summertime pictures, when you see everybody's wearing short sleeve shirts and little skinny ties standing around the airplane, that cover's always off.
Oh, for ventilation.
So I imagine it was pretty hot, given the proximity of the pilot to the engine. It was probably pretty hot in the cockpit.
Yeah.
So like I said, all the pictures you can see that's popped off. And in the later pictures, when they changed the paint scheme of the NATA's or NAT's airline service, when it said U.S. Mail Express on the side, that's when it was running a regular route.
Okay.
And then later on, they painted U.S. Mail Express off of the side of the airplane, and it just had NAT Air Service.
Okay.
And that's when it was chartered. And they changed them. They took them off the regular line. Probably replaced them with the Ford Tri-Motor, and then they just used them for charter services wherever somebody wanted to go.
Didn't know about that.
So that's when they took the airmail off the side. Which makes sense.
Okay, sure. So what have been some of the surprises of this thing so far?
Some of the surprises. Well, I think one of the ones that took us a while to figure out was the fact that it had this double floor in the cockpit.
Oh, right here?
Yeah, and we found, and what gave that away is when we were looking at the original firewall that Harry still had, he had written on the back of it, floor, 10 inches.
Oh, really?
So he had scribed a line on the back of the firewall. I guess when they disassembled it, all the dregs were still there.
Yeah. Wow.
And he marked it on the back of the firewall, said floor, 10 inches from the longeron to the floor line.
I'll be darned. Okay.
So we were scratching our head because the rudder pedals were too far from the floor that he had already in there.
Okay.
Can't reach them. Something's got to be different.
Yeah.
That was one of the interesting ones. The other one that we've discovered was that they had designed this airplane to have a QEC, a quick engine change unit.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, the picture that we found that has a caption under it says, an experienced mechanic could change an engine in 15 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the instrument panel that has all the engine instruments
Right.
and all the engine controls is part of the engine mount.
Oh, all right. Okay, so
So
you just pulled
you
the
didn't
whole
have
thing
to
out.
you didn't have to unhook the oil pressure gauge or the carburetor heat handle or any of that stuff. The whole thing came off. You pulled out 4 bolts and unhooked the throttle, and everything else came off with the
Oh,
engine.
how cool is that? Yeah.
But we still haven't seen a good picture of the instrument panel layout because we know we've got a good picture of the engine instrument
Okay.
panel that's part of the
Okay.
engine mount. But we don't know what the flight instruments look like. All the
right.
pictures we've got, there's either a glare or,
Well, this airplane wasn't in service for that long, and there weren't that many of them.
Right.
Harry tells me that this airplane, because he had talked to Goebbels,
yeah.
that this airplane had been, they had been preparing it for that, not a speed run, but that distance flight, the Dole flight.
Right.
It never was part of that, but so there were modifications made to this one for it to be able to do that. So this one, in many respects, is a little bit different.
Wow.
There were only 14 of these anyway, I guess.
Right. That's my understanding. 2 racers and 12 airliners.
Right, right. And so the only
Limousine
other,
of the air.
right, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
It was the first airplane built for passenger service, so it's really pretty cool. And the only other one is up at Bartlesville, I guess. Have you been up there to look
No,
at
I
that
haven't.
one at all?
I've got stacks and stacks of pictures of it.
Okay.
Jerry actually found, Jerry Asher, he found the son of the guy that worked for Phillips Aviation Department that was the restoration chief when they restored
really? Okay.
Willow Rock.
Okay.
And his son had taken a lot of pictures, so we've got a stack
Oh,
of,
great.
of photographs when it was in pieces. A lot of it's very interesting, but not reusable for this restoration
yeah.
because it didn't have, it had a 575-gallon gas tank,
Oh,
fuel
just
tank
for-
that
yeah,
went
for the
right
race.
here.
Just
And
for
then,
the race, yeah.
the trim system was all different, the fuel system was all different.
Oh,
The
really?
cockpit layout was completely different.
Oh, so, well,
And I can understand why they changed the trim, because if you're having to adjust the rigging of the airplane as you're burning 575 gallons of gas off, then that little crank, like on a J3 Cub,
Right.
you're gonna wear yourself out re-rigging the airplane. In the pictures of Willow Rock, you can see it had like a 12-inch trim wheel
oh, really?
right here behind the
Okay.
throttle, so he could
Okay.
do a lot of trim work with it.
So is the process coming along pretty much the way you expected it to?
Yeah, I'd say the process, my method, my attack plan
Yeah.
for doing the restoration is pretty much on track as far as technically.
Okay.
Schedule-wise, I'm a little bit behind where I wanted to be, and mostly that's because of the weather. We've just
weather,
had some,
yeah.
so a couple of stretches where we were in the 20s for 4 or 5 days at a time, and
So when do you think you're going to be done?
I'm still shooting for May.
Okay, because Harry doesn't think you're going to be done before August.
Okay.
That was Harry's comment the other day.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
they
I
won't be-
understand
they
it,
won't be
so my
done
dad's
until August.
looking at it going, he says, "You're dreaming."
Good. So your
Yeah.
dad's been out here looking at it?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
great.
actually, Dad's been helping a little bit.
Oh,
on it.
good, good,
As
excellent.
soon as we finish, getting everything fit together, which we're almost there, is I'm gonna send the control surfaces all over to his shop to start
okay.
doing cover work on the
Okay.
controls,
Good.
little pieces, because he's got a little climate controlled environment.
Yeah,
he can
sure.
he can work there, and we're gonna do all the big stuff here in this shop.
Okay, well, I've been out to this place several times. I fly out of Mark Air a little bit.
Yeah.
But my son flew out of over there and used to go visit with your dad a lot over there. So.
Mhm.
Well, and he did our Bronco mock-up.
Right.
out there,
Yeah, I knew
so.
that.
So once you get it all done, are you going to bring the wings back here before you take it apart and take it downtown?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, what I really wanted to do, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit it in, is I wanted to finish the woodwork, which I'm about a week away, I think, of finishing the woodwork on the fuselage.
Okay.
And then, because it's almost all there except the stringers on this side and finishing the stringers on the top.
Okay.
And then plywood deck in the cockpit, but I want to get a little bit more done inside the cockpit before I put the deck on, because then
Okay.
it's easier to access.
It's easier to access now. Well,
And then I wanted to put it all back together without any fabric on it, with all the wood finished and all the wood wings,
Yeah.
and take a pre-cover photo. But I always think that makes a great
It
picture
will.
for the storyboard.
have you talked
the
to
book.
have you talked to Joy lately about whether you're going to expose half of it or part of it, or are they going to
No,
cover the whole thing?
I really need to get with them next week,
Yeah.
because they wanted, like I said, they wanted to come out before Christmas,
Right,
and we
okay.
got tangled up and it didn't happen. I guess that was that weekend we got 6
that
inches of
ice
ice up
and
here.
stuff,
It's
yeah.
the weekend we were scheduled to get together.
Well, talk to Jerry Asher. What's Jerry doing on the project?
He's doing a lot of research for it. He was up here yesterday cutting sheet metal parts, and
Okay.
yeah, He's chipping in just because he's enthusiastic
Yeah.
about this type of a project.
Well, he'd mentioned to me he's going to do a print on it or
Yeah.
something. Okay.
Yeah, he's going to do some kind of artwork
That's great.
on it.
Well, how many other people are working on this with you? I know it's not just you.
Well, Tom Swindle, you met him earlier.
Sure.
Him and a guy named David O.Z. out of Keller are doing the engine in
Okay.
the other shop, and we'll go up there and
Right.
look at that in a little bit.
Okay. Harry was amazed, by the way. I told him what you guys have been doing to the engine. He says, "Why are they doing so much work on it? They're not going to fly it, are they?"
No. It looks like it'll
Yeah.
run, but so we got Tom and David are doing the engine. Doug Falk, one of my Lockheed buddies,
Okay.
and Jerry and I are doing most of the.
Okay. So it's a
the
pretty small group
fuselage.
that's doing
Yeah,
all
it
this
is a pretty small group. Now I'll get some more help coming in when I start covering.
Okay.
Because when doing the woodwork, it's a little technical. It's a little scratch your head and use your engineering,
Yeah,
to try to
yeah.
figure out how to make it shape. Look at the pictures and
Right.
try to figure some things out. It's really, I've had a lot of people say, well, give me something to do and I'll help you work on it. It's like, well, I don't even know what I'm going to do in
Yeah,
the
at
next
this
10
point,
minutes,
yeah.
much less tell
Yeah.
you what,
So
so
have you
something
got
can-
patterns for some of the woodwork? I'm looking at some of this, and you've got it cutter shaped and that kind of thing. Do you
Yeah.
have patterns for this, or
Well,
is this all
I
kind of
had-
eyeball work?
I had there was about there was 8 pieces that Harry had cut out.
Okay.
That I was using as assuming that he knew that he got that contour from someplace,
Right,
and I
yeah.
was starting to use that. Plus, there was about 4 pieces of original wood that were still with the project when we got it.
That's amazing.
Most of that was up underneath the sheet metal of the.
Oh, okay. So
It was
it's been
protected. It was behind the
okay.
firewall and underneath the sheet metal
Okay.
of the cabin, so it was protected enough that it was a usable pattern, and duct tape those into
Yeah,
place and then
okay.
pop some string lines and go, okay, I get what they were doing
Yeah.
here. And then we made another one out
Okay.
of new wood. So
What kind of wood are you using on this?
most of it's I'm actually using oak and birch.
Okay.
If it's structural, because we're not flying it and I'm not as concerned about weight,
Right.
we're still gonna hang it, so I
Sure.
can't make it out of concrete, but I'm using oak where I really need structure.
Okay.
For like the windows, the door frames, the cockpit door trim where people could possibly get in and out.
Right, okay.
I know it's going to be a delicate museum piece, but somebody's going to want to sit in it. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, you put your little booties on and
Yeah.
I'll let you get in it,
Yeah.
kind of a deal. But,
So are the wings about ready to be covered?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the wings are ready. I need to ask Joy some questions about what they want to do with the landing lights.
Oh, okay.
Whether we're going to display it with the landing lights out or with the landing lights retracted.
What are your druthers?
Actually, I think it'd look better with them retracted. And
Okay.
maybe a picture of them.
Yeah.
With storyboard,
Yeah.
with a picture of the landing light
Yeah.
out and a little number 4 hanging
Okay.
from it. Going, that's the spot.
the
They can look at
spot,
the
yeah.
story because.
Or you could have it open and have LEDs in there and light it
Yeah,
up
you
at
can. We
night.
can open it, but I don't
Yeah.
think we can make it open and close.
Oh, yeah, sure. One way or the other.
Yeah, it's either going to be extended and lit up or retracted and a story telling what they are. 'Cause
Well,
they're all run by bungee cords.
Yeah, right.
And even Harry had made them semi-functional.
Okay.
Or maybe they worked when he had it,
I
but
don't have a clue.
they're bungee cords. They're made out of rubber, and there's no such thing as new old stock rubber.
Right, okay.
So the bungee cords were all shot,
Okay.
even though he'd replaced them probably in the 80s, I'm guessing, when they built the wing.
Could be, I don't know.
But,
I have no idea. You'd
count
have to
how long
ask
ago
him.
that was. The bungee cords are all
Yeah.
shot.
Well,
So if we-
obviously, from what you've got in the hangar, you've got a lot of different technology on airplanes. What do you think of the technology on this thing from, it's a mid-20s airplane?
Right. Well, you can tell it. You can
Okay.
tell it's mid-20s. I mean, some of the stuff that's kind of surprised me was the way they attach the wood to the steel tubing, which is just little steel straps
Really?
that just clamp it on.
Okay,
And there was a lot of those left. I mean, there's a box of those
okay.
left over. I don't know where they went, but Harry had a box like he got a metal detector and went over the ground where this thing
Oh,
was
really?
at and
Okay,
picked up
'cause they're
every
all
little
kind
piece of metal.
falling
Yeah.
off. Okay,
So there's a box of those.
okay.
And we made new ones for the most part, but I think the technology is primitive. I want to say it's kind of a negative sounding term, but it wasn't a science in those
Right.
days. It was more of an art form. So
Well, but this airplane had gone from basically from biplanes that would carry some mail and maybe 2 pilots to an airplane that was designed to carry passengers and mail both. So
Right.
it was really kind of a real difference from that standpoint.
It was the first step, and we've, just sitting around having coffee, talking about this, we'd really like to do some reverse engineering and understand how they change, because this airplane, the reason the cockpit's set up the way it is, and the pilot's not in the same plane, so to speak, as the passengers, he's up higher so he can see over the engine. And if you look at a 6000, the passengers are all...
Oh, they are up higher, aren't they?
The passengers are higher, even though the fuselage isn't really that much bigger. So it's got something to do with where they put the thrust line and where they put the center of lift of the wing. They figured something out after the 5000 and made the airplanes more like what we know of today. I haven't figured out what that is yet, but I know that they went ding. If we do this and we do that, then the guy can see out better. Which was kind of that kind of drove a lot of the designs in the early years of aviation, if you think about it, when they were playing around with Menescos and inline engines and something to get the engine out of the line of sight, but still have the thrust line down the middle of the airplane.
Well, this is great. We look forward to seeing the progress as you go along with this. You want to have him show us the engine now?
So
The last time I was here, you had one cylinder.
Yeah. It's been on and off about 14 times. I can feel strip this in the dark.
Wow. Well, it's beautiful. It looks like you could get it. It's just about ready to be mounted and used.
Yeah, I'm out of nuts right now, so we bought everything that Texas Air parts had, but.
Well, I was telling Harry about it, and he said, "Why are they doing all that? They're not going to fly it." And I said, "You don't understand. These guys aren't going to just dust it off and put it back on the airplane."
Well, I mean, from what we got, it was effectively, that's a scrap engine, and it was all just thrown in a big box, and he was concentrating on the 300 Lycoming, so.
Yeah, now that piece that we brought in mounts underneath it, right?
It picks up these three.
Oh, there we go,
intake manifolds. It mounts right there, and then the carburetor mounts to it, and you really can't see that part when it's on the airplane, but that's what holds the carburetor on, and you can see the carburetor.
Right. Well, and that's what was in that book.
This is treasure. Believe me, this thing is cared for and is treasure.
Good, because
nobody with dirty, they have to wash their hands before they can open it.
Because we'll want it back when you're done.
Yes, I know, and I understand.
We're glad we found that.
Still not pristine.
Yeah,
but they're cleaner.
Yep. But
they'll be preserved enough that they won't rot away.
Yeah.
When it's on
some
display.
of them were horrible.
Were they really?
Yeah. Well, there's two that we couldn't get pistons out of.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, when we put penetrating oil in there to lube it up, and it would run out of the side because the holes in the barrels, because it was obviously one of the cylinders that was down, and they were holding water. And,
Wow.
Yeah.
And I bet we moved 300 pounds worth of dirt daubers.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah, sure.
It's unbelievable.
Well, it was outside for at least 30 years, and it wasn't inaccessible to them down at Harry's place.
That's right.
So you get what, 60 years worth of mud?
It's semi-warm.
As opposed to the war room, right?
Yeah, exactly.